we can change that, okay? Our brains, our bodies, our minds are just like so wonderful and powerful and beautiful and amazing. Ciao VISIEM, hi all. So last video, which if you hadn't seen it, watch that one first, then come back to this one. I talked about why we all have a problem with our phones. I genuinely think, okay, not all, but most of us have an addiction. We have a problem with our phones. And so this video, I'm going to talk about things that we can do, like actual steps on how we can deal with this. So to begin with, I just wanted to talk about a little bit about my own phone use, because a lot of this is obviously going to be related from or stemming from my experience with my phone. So as I said in the previous video, I had this iPhone, this baby right here, for 3 years, and on it I have never had notifications on for anything other than WhatsApp and then iMessage and calling, so nothing else. And I legitimately only use Facebook, Instagram, on Twitter. Those are my 3 apps. I don't have a lot of apps at all. I've never played an iPhone game or anything of the sort. Yeah, so those are literally the primary things that I do, and I still most certainly have a problem with my phone use and screen time, etc. And as far as social media detoxes, I have, because I travel a lot, just the nature of my life, and it involves a lot of travel and moving from different places, there's definitely been times when, I haven't been able to be on my phone because I'm in the jungle and there's no Wi-Fi or whatever, but I've intentionally done a social media detox only twice in my life. I deactivated Instagram a week ago as of right now when I'm filming this video, and I did it last year too, where I deactivated all social media for like a week. And the one thing that I want to say is that it is surprising, first of all, how good it feels, but the one thing, and I promise y'all, I didn't believe it when I heard it from other people, when I read it at first as well, but it happens like 1000%, I guarantee you. If you do this, like if you decide I want to do a quick social media detox for like 1 week, and then when the end of that week comes, like Sunday night is here, I can get back on, you do not want to. Like, it actually is really, really hard to get yourself back on, because you already feel so much better without this thing to some extent out of your life, that you don't really want to. You don't want to get back into it, which doesn't necessarily mean you don't want to have these apps or, your phone or whatever, but it's that the habits that you have surrounding them, which is overuse and being on your phone too much and so on, that is the stuff that you just don't want it anymore. Of course, also, if you do a social media detox, there are things that you learn about yourself. Like the first one I did last year when it was only for a week, but immediately the next morning I realized that like I have my morning routine, and then I go and I drink my hot water, and while I drink my hot water, I'm typically scrolling down Instagram. So when you don't have it, immediately you're like noticing, oh wow, I'm actually like very much reliant on this activity at this point in time. And after I did that, from that point onwards, I've never ever gone on Instagram while I'm doing my morning routine. I just don't use my phone throughout that whole time, because I realized that that's not healthy, and that's just something I don't want in my life. So you learn a lot of stuff about yourself and habits specific to you on when you rely on your phone, on your social media, and you can make smarter decisions about whether you want to do this or you don't. And it's fine either way, but the point is to like take the power of decision making back from the tech people. The other thing you notice if you do a social media break or phone break or whatever, is just how often other people are on your phone. So whenever I've done it, it's always like, oh, so this is the natural time in the conversation when everyone's gonna be on their phones for a little bit. Okay, I'm just gonna sit here, I guess. And then of course there are the benefits, which everybody's gonna say that's ever tried to give up their phone or social media or whatever, which is like you have improved sleep, you are way more productive, which is something that I do not care about, but I talked about in the previous video. You're generally happier, less anxiety, better social interactions, just overall like physically and mentally healthier. Anyways, here's my plan that I've designed for myself and you or anyone who wants to on trying to reduce your phone use or screen time in whatever capacity you want. Maybe you're using your phone for 6 hours a day and you want to use it for 5, or maybe, whatever. It doesn't matter. But I think that literally all of us could use and could try to implement some of these things. So the first 4 like foundational steps are that I've decided. The first one is to educate yourself on exactly what this phone use is, excessive phone use is doing to you mentally and physically, and educate yourself on how you're being manipulated by all the apps, literally by the colors they choose, by everything. Like, I think those 2 things are really, really important. See how much of a problem you have. I actually skipped this step, but whatever. It's reported, or the research shows that most of us think, like, if I ask you how many hours per day do you think you are on your phone, you're going to be giving me a number that's half of what you actually are. So if you tell me it's 4 hours, it's going to be closer to 8 hours. If you tell me it's 2 hours, it's going to be closer to 4 hours. So downloading a tracking app that you can of course delete afterwards, is really good to see where you're actually at, because a lot of us really don't know. And the 4th foundational point, which is the most important point, is understand why you are on your phone. When do you pick it up? Why do you do it? What are the underlying causes and issues that are causing you to be on your phone this much? Basically, you know, even though a lot of us get on our phones sometimes when we are bored, when we are in the elevator or whatever, a lot of times we get on our phones to escape something and escape something within us. So unless we really address those problems, I don't think we can really talk about reducing phone time or anything of the sort. And this may mean like going to therapy, like dealing with some shit, like healing some trauma, maybe reevaluating your life completely and realizing you're like in an unhappy marriage, or you hate your job, or you hate the country you live in, or something like that. All those things may happen, but like, you gotta face them. And I think as of right now, a lot of people, a lot of us are living miserable lives, and we're using phones and screens to just escape that reality and never have to be with our own thoughts, never have to think about this. So the first thing is really having to address that. And so basically, like what she says in the book is that every time you're about to pick up your phone, like ask yourself why? Like, what am I escaping, or what am I avoiding, or what am I trying to achieve, or what do I want to like expect to receive when I pick it up, and like really trying to evaluate what is your why. Okay, and now let's get to work. Actual concrete steps to take. First one, unsubscribe from all unnecessary emails. We already know how to do this. Every time you receive an email that's just some unnecessary red dot that's going to be appearing and bugging you every other week or every day, unsubscribe. Next one, remove notifications. As I said before, I only have WhatsApp and, you know, iMessage, whatever notifications, and I think it's really important, because every time that phone buzzes and something comes up, our attention is taken away. It takes our brain 25 minutes to switch from one action to the other one. So do consider removing some notifications. An additional point just to insert in this, and what also she says in the book, is that most of us have an inflated sense of our own importance. So we tend to think that, oh my God, so-and-so DMs me on Instagram and I'm not gonna have a notification, you know, I'm not gonna be able to respond within the hour, within the day. The reality is that honestly, like, most people are gonna be fine if you don't respond, even in the same week, or even if you don't respond at all. Next step is, I have a list here, change your charging station. So this is a lot of what we're gonna try to do is put physical barriers between us and the phone. So change the charging station to somewhere in the apartment that is like not accessible, definitely not close to your bed or anything of the sort, and then you put it there, let it charge, don't give it no attention. Next one is to buy an alarm. This is something that I really wanted to do already a year ago when I did my first social media detox, and then I didn't. I really wish I had, because the point is to not sleep in the same room as your phone. It's extremely unhealthy mentally and physically. So you want to have an alarm. I struggled because when I went on Amazon and looked up alarms, all of them were electronic, and I don't want another electronic thing. I want those like old school alarms that I had growing up, which like you like wind it. I don't know, please insert some links below if you find a cute one like that. Another thing to do, next one, is decide on no phone time. So for example, in the morning, for the first 2 hours I'm awake, I don't want to look on my phone. That's a decision I make, I'm going to stick to it, okay? Or maybe we do a no phone dinner times or meal times, and especially if you live with, you know, family or your partner or something, it's good to set those rules with everybody, because then you don't need to have an argument every single day. You just decide, dinner is phone free, period. This half hour, no phones. Or you decide, you know, 2 hours before sleep, whatever. Just decide that there are certain either places or times of the day that you are not on your phone. Next one, try to leave your phone physically behind as often as you can. So I try to do this whenever I go to the grocery store, especially when I go with Isaiah, because the only person who could really need me at that moment is him, and since we're together, what is the point, okay? If I go out for a walk or something, just try to leave it behind. We are so genuinely like glued to it. It's become an extension of our reality. It doesn't need to be that way. Just leave it behind as often as you can. Next one, of course, sound off. I certainly don't think any millennials keep the sound on, but regardless, sound off, vibration off. Next one is trying to put more barriers between you and the phone. So passcodes, you know, like organizing all of your apps in folders, like remove everything from the home screen onto the different ones, putting it in folders and so on and so on. Also app blocks. I downloaded for iPhone. The good app it's called Freedom, and I actually paid for it. Honey, baby, love, I don't pay for anything in my life that's not like a basic human necessity. Like if it's food or water or plane tickets, I'm willing to pay. Clothes, the most would be $20, nothing else. And I paid for an app. So because I genuinely think that it's going to improve my quality of life. So maybe consider downloading apps that just allow you to, you know, block certain apps for certain times of the day. You can even schedule when you want that to happen and so on. And then we try to add in some stopping cues. So I talked about this in the previous video, where in real life activities, we have natural stopping cues. When we finish, you know, like playing football, or we finish dancing or drawing or reading or whatever, there's a natural stopping cue, and we can decide to do the same thing again or something else. Apps and phones have like remove that or try to remove that. So part of like taking back control is trying to reinsert some stopping cues. So maybe if I want to be on Instagram right now, I'm going to set my alarm for 20 minutes and then I'm going to go on Instagram. Ideally the alarm is in another room so that I have to physically get up and turn it off. And then after those 20 minutes, I can still say, hey, I want to be on Instagram more, and then I'll go back and, you know, do it for another 20 minutes. But the point is to try to insert those stopping cues so that you can give yourself the choice. Like the Netflix thing that, you know, next episode starts playing immediately. We're trying to remove that. We're trying to have some stopping cue in which we can take back control and decide, do I want to? Do I really want to spend more time on this, or do I not? So the next ones are the most dangerous apps, which are the infinite scrolling apps, the slot machine apps, the ones that are the most addictive. And in the book, and I've read this recommendation a lot, is to basically delete them and keep them only on your computer. And I'm not sure, I might actually do that. And even though you might think, like that's what I thought initially, that like, oh, if I just have it on my computer, I'm just still gonna be on Instagram for 2 hours, but on my computer, it's not actually the case, because it's very different. On our, we don't want to do that. Like it doesn't work the same way on the computer. So we get on our computers less. Obviously we don't have them with ourselves, like outside and stuff like that. So maybe that's an option, but in general, really try to evaluate these infinite scrolling apps, like do you need them and so on. Just ask some questions. Another advice is to grayscale the phone. I do not know how to do it. Maybe I'll look into it, but it's basically like changing the color scheme of the phone, so almost everything is going to be showing up as different shades of gray rather than the like gray, red and orange and sparkly like notifications and app images and all the ads that we have on it, which actually does reduce us wanting to be on our phones for that long. Another option is to simply have hobbies. And I mean, like, genuinely, this is, you know, I think a lot of articles have been written about this in the last couple of years, that, you know, having hobbies is anti-capitalist and like all this stuff, because basically we're doing something for ourselves that doesn't necessarily, you know, produce profit to someone or to ourselves. And also it keeps us away from things that maybe aren't as good for us, like being on social media or on our phones all the time. The other thing is practicing mindfulness. So I don't know how I would live my life without doing meditation and yoga and practicing mindfulness. This is, once again, I might do another video just about mindfulness and meditation and like my journey with all of that. But it's something that, you know, I can place it on this list, but it's not something you can just like check the box off like, oh, did mindfulness. It's really, a constant practice forever, but it is proven that like we are always happier if we are being mindful in whatever activity it is, even if it is something like doing dishes, which is actually when I try to be, that's one of my mindfulness cues for myself. Like when I'm doing something like sweeping the floors or doing the dishes, I try to be mindful. And in general, like mindfulness and meditation, y'all, it'll change your life, I promise. Another thing that a couple of these books mentioned that I read is nature restoration theory, which basically talks about how being out in the nature is like the antidote to all of this like social media and phone distraction that we have. And I think we all can attest to this. We know that when we go outside in the nature, we spend a couple hours hiking or walking by the sea or whatever, we feel so much better. The last thing I was gonna say to kind of like end this list on a more hopeful note, that because it can get a little depressing after you look through all the research and data and see just how damaged we are now, like how our brains have been like changed and like all this really bad stuff that's happened because of all this like addiction to phones and, you know, intense screen use that we have right now. It's also good to know that like these are all reversible things. We can change that. So in the book, where do I have it? She talks about how reading, something like reading, also rewires our brains. It enables us to store and retrieve more information. It changes the way we think. We are reorganizing neural circuitry in a way that encourages creativity, problem solving, and insight. So I like to think about that, and I wanted to mention it because even if you feel like you now have, maybe you feel like you actually have a problem with your phone, or you just like, you know, damn, you've spent so much hours already wasted and like your brain is already scattered and in constant state of distraction and so on, we can change that, okay? Our brains, our bodies, our minds are just like so wonderful and powerful and beautiful and amazing. Like I'm constantly impressed, like the things that we can do, the trauma that we can get rid of, and all this stuff is unreal. And another thing a couple of these books mention, if you do this, you know, like quite aggressively, or if you just try a social media or a phone detox or anything of the sort, maybe you even lock your phone away for 2 days or something, it's fine if you're feeling like a little twitchy, or maybe you're actually feeling like aggressive or upset or angry or really, really sad. You're detoxing, that's fine, that's normal, and you know, that's to be expected basically. For me personally, I am really trying to, you know, I've already done all these steps and I'm actively trying to lower my phone use, lower my social media use. I think two major issues that I still have is one, the fact that my closest friends, my family, my community lives across the globe. Everybody is extremely scattered, so if I want to keep in touch with people, I'm never ever gonna be, you know, seeing them day to day in my actual life until I travel to, you know, whatever location. So keeping in touch by posting things and sharing things is really important to me. And the other thing is that I feel like, I know that I learn everything I know from Twitter and Instagram and, you know, all this like social media. I learn from it. So it's really hard for me, and I definitely feel like, you know, like not fear of missing out of like parties and stuff. I don't care about that. Y'all can go to the club. I don't want it, but but fear of missing out of knowledge, like fear of missing out on information, because every time I open Twitter, I learn something amazing, you know? But I have to also recognize that it comes at a cost. And here I want to mention another book real quick that I read a couple months back. It's called How to Do Nothing. I'm gonna insert the link below, but oh my god, it's amazing. Highly, highly, highly recommend everybody to read it. Buy it for yourself, buy it to all your loved ones. It's really, really good. And in that book, she does, on like one page of the book, she just lists like 10 or 15 tweets that we might consecutively see on our feed. And you know, like on my feed, it would look like, I don't know, like a vegan recipe, news article about police brutality or something, some academic political theory quotes, pictures of hot girls, I don't know, some Marxist stuff, or you know, like some stuff about sexism, some news about the US, some fashion trends, da da da. It's all this information that is completely unrelated, and our brain is like consuming it all one after another at a high speed, and it's just not like, we were never designed to be consuming information like machines, because we're not machines, and it actually really, really fucks with us, and it's really, really hard. And I noticed that also when I do go on social media detoxes or breaks, even days after, you know, days after I've last been on my phone, I'll have like a random thought or image or tweet pop into my head, something that I've seen days before, and that really makes me think that, you know, even though I felt like I scrolled past that, like it took me a millisecond to see it, so certainly I don't, you know, whatever. It's actually all still in my head, trying, like, fighting for the space to be processed, because I'm just feeding, like we're all feeding our brains way too much, way too much. So in conclusion, I do think we could all really benefit on reducing our phone use, reducing our screen time, not even like reducing it to a level that we don't want it to be. It's more like reducing it back to the natural state, because we are being manipulated by design to be on our phones more than we actually want to. I am the most concerned with people who are unable to be with their own thoughts because of phones and screens offering constant distraction and escapism. I think that it's an actual pandemic right now, and that people really need to start dealing with this and healing. But also, as I talked about in the previous video, and I just want to bring it up again, it's not all bad. Like, as I said, legitimately, social media saved my life. Like, being able to connect with like-minded people, finding your circle, you know, all of that stuff, it can be extremely empowering and good. So it's really not a black or white thing. It's just like trying to figure out what works for you and making sure that you're not taking back control and choice, basically. But anyways, please comment below with other ideas if you've ever tried to reduce your screen time or phone use and what worked for you, or how you felt after a social media phone detox. If you've ever done that, let me know. I'm always looking for new ideas, and I'm gonna update y'all on how my journey goes, because I'm being pretty aggressive with all of these steps. Love you all so much.